Believe that the complexity of fibromyalgia is not so much in the fibromyalgia itself, it's in the lack of. It is the lack of understanding and awareness, that distance between symptoms starting and getting a diagnosis, and then that massive gap between getting adequate treatment. Hi, Melissa from Melissa vs. Fibromyalgia here, and I've been thinking about fibromyalgia. So I am in the process of releasing a few children's books about fibromyalgia to help create awareness in our own homes and hopefully create a generation of advocates. And I'm also working on my next book for adults. It's kind of like a memoir with everything I recommend and everything I've learned. And one of the main things I'm doing, of course, is getting my thoughts around what I believe in terms of fibromyalgia. And I believe that the complexity of fibromyalgia is not so much in the fibromyalgia itself, it's in the lack of. It is the lack of understanding and awareness, that distance between symptoms starting and getting a diagnosis, and then that massive gap between getting adequate treatment. Literally for me, it's taken many years to get adequate treatment. So for example, my symptoms started quite young, and I could tell by the attitude I received that they didn't believe me in some cases, and that they didn't take me seriously. And that very long gap made all the dominoes fall down. That made it more complex. So living for more than 10 years with undermanaged pain, completely unmanaged sleep problems, and that being told, and like outright told by doctors to just carry on, just push through. I was literally discouraged from reducing my work hours by my GP in my 20s, despite it being very difficult. Like was getting worse and worse and worse. And the doctor discouraged me from stopping or reducing my work hours because she believed that it wouldn't change my symptoms at all, and I'd just end up with less money. And that's, that was her obvious, genuine belief, which is a shame. Not necessarily her fault, though she probably could have done more research. She could definitely have been more proactive. But that's another story. But I ended up burnt out, and all these dominoes had fallen over before we even got to a point where I had any understanding of my condition. So I got a diagnosis of fibromyalgia. So the pain came on slowly. And then in my last year of university, I got a bad bug, and then the fatigue came. And then over the next year, it's like the pain and fatigue kind of developed. And I had sleep problems the entire time. So it kind of came on slowly and fast. But then from 21 to 25, the pain just got worse. I saw physical therapist after physical therapist. I tried massage therapy, tried chiropractic, tried dry needling from a physiotherapist, tried osteopathy. I tried everything I could. And I took the painkillers the doctors gave me, but the painkillers actually didn't help. They gave me a different type of muscle relaxant. I can't remember the name of it now. Synflex, I think. All that did was upset my stomach, and it did not help at all. And then all these other problems kept coming in. I was burnt out. My nervous system was just on high alert. I didn't sleep. I was exhausted, and I got sick all the time. I was so sick all the time. I once went to work with the flu because I couldn't tell the difference between my regular life with a cold or at making it a flu. Like, I just couldn't tell. I always felt that bad. And when I said, okay, I've got to start listening to my body, and I reduced my hours, reduced how much I was pushing my body to exercise, and started trying to learn and experiment, that's when things turned around. But it took a very long time, because even from then, even with knowing that reducing my work hours had helped, even with starting to get myself aware and advocating, I still couldn't find a doctor who would take me seriously. Like every single year, they would just bang fibromyositis on my diagnosis chart. And then finally, I was referred to the pain clinic after many years. So in 2014, I think it was, I was sent to the pain clinic, They didn't do anything to help me. The first doctor wanted to throw me on gabapentin, and the second doctor dismissed me and said, do some sleep hygiene. And they wrote chronic fatigue syndrome on my long-term diagnosis history at that point, but did not tell me, so I did not know. Then in 2019, they stopped putting fibromyalgia and then put fibromyalgia as a long-term diagnosis. Even having those two diagnoses on my long-term history changed nothing in their treatment. Nothing. And so we get to the point where like my body is just exhausted and it is smashing against the wall, and like the complexity is growing, and then I start to tease away at it, right? I finally find low-dose naltrexone, and luckily my doctor, although not super familiar with it, was familiar enough to let me try it. So he let me try that. I started my yoga nidra guided meditation and my other things to really teach my parasympathetic nervous system to switch on and my nervous system to calm down. Then I created my own pain management plans to really get on top of the pain. I fought to get the endometriosis dealt with, like really literally fought. And so now we've come to a point though that it's almost like the damage is done and it's going to take me a lot more work, and I don't even know how far I can go, like how ingrained it all is. And this is because of undertreatment, gaslighting, and that gap between diagnosis and then the gap before treatment. Like I have officially never had appropriate treatment. Even the last time I went to the doctor with a real and legitimate concern, I was dismissed. This is the borderline POTS kind of situation where my heart rate just keeps going too high and goes too high. My Fitbit already today thinks I have done 45 minutes of hard exercise. I have not, obviously. And it's Russian roulette every time I go to the doctor, which again is another thing for my nervous system. When I think, okay, I have to go to the doctor and I have to bring up this symptom and I have to ask for help, you just don't know how you're going to be treated. And actually at this point here in New Zealand, you can almost guarantee nothing's going to happen. They're either going to have a medicine to throw you on, or that's the end of the story. There's no specialist to send you to. And even if they do send you to a specialist, I've been outright told by a rheumatologist here that none of the specialties care about what I have. So that's obviously an impact on your nervous system. But can you imagine? And this is what research is proving. You have the symptoms, you tell your doctor, they take them seriously, and then they make a plan. They get aggressive on helping you sleep and manage the pain, and they teach you about the concept of pacing. Boom, the complexity is gone. And you see all of this, there's lots of people who have, they can kind of claim remission, but it's usually when they haven't had it very long. Like I follow a few people. One person had remission after a few years, and for them it was kind of a couple of things, but the main thing was one issue. Or there's people, for whom it's like go gluten-free and it's fixed. But it seems to be that the earlier you catch it, the less complex it is. And the later you are, the more symptom levels you have, and the longer it's been, it feels like the more complex it is because other kind of systems get involved. So for me now, it's the hypermobility and the fibromyalgia and the dysautonomia, kind of heart rate problems, breathing problems, difficulty managing temperatures, and the chronic fatigue syndrome, like that all, it makes it complex when you start putting these things together. But I believe the problem and the reason I'm where I am now is because of poor treatment and diagnosis. If we could get everybody diagnosed appropriately and treated appropriately, then I feel like we'd have a lot less burden, both on like the wider community and at an individual scale. We know that it costs money. Like there is a ginormous dollar figure they can put on things like lost productivity and healthcare costs for people with chronic pain and fibromyalgia and ME/CFS. But for something like fibromyalgia, there are so many options. And no, you can't necessarily fully treat it in everyone. But if you can get on it, if you can tackle that sleep, get the sleep hygiene in place, get the medications in place, because you're probably going to need medications when it's fibromyalgia, get the pain management plan in place. Mix the medication and the natural, get it in place. And then start talking about the pacing and start working with the nervous system, right? Teach their body, teach their nervous system to switch on, to counteract all of those messages pelting the nervous system. I believe you do that quickly, then you're going to take away a lot of the complexity. I hope that makes sense. Do you agree? Do you feel like I'm onto something there? Do you think that that's correct? Are you someone who has had early and adequate treatment and have experienced improvement? Or are you someone who's had early and adequate treatment but it's still not helped? Let me know. But I certainly feel like I'm where I am, and I've made the best, right? I've just done my best making lemonade out of these lemons, but I feel like I wouldn't be here if I hadn't been so let down by all of the medical professionals I have seen. Because even when I have been advocating for myself, it takes a long time to get them on board. And I'm really disappointed about that. And I don't want that for anyone else. So that's why I'm making a lot of noise here. This is why I'm sharing everything that helps me and all of these things that I'm thinking, because I don't want that for you. So if you are there at the beginning of your journey, if it's early on, maybe you've just got diagnosis, or maybe you've just got these symptoms happening, get there, get this information, find it out, get it diagnosed, and get those treatment plans. Go hard on these areas ASAP. And I believe that you will make a big difference in your outcome. Thanks for being here, and I'll talk to you soon.